All right, everyone, today we're going to talk about how often should I change my exercises. Now, starting off, what we're really talking about is how often should I change my exercises during a specific training block towards one goal. So if you have a powerlifting meet in 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever it may be, or a bodybuilding show, or you're trying to lose fat or you're trying to build muscle, the question is, how often should my exercise selection change? And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so the first thing that we're going to take into consideration when we're talking about how often to change exercises is experience level. The more experienced a lifter is, the more they're probably going to need to change exercises more often during certain periods of their training. The reason being that beginner lifters need a longer period of time to truly develop the motor patterns and develop the techniques in certain lifts. If we're talking about big power lifts or the Olympic lifts, it takes them time to really develop these motor patterns, develop the techniques, learn the body positionings, have the kinesthetic awareness to kind of feel what's going on in their body. So they need to do these same lifts repetitively more often so they can get enough quality reps to really start kind of hammering in those motor patterns. Other thing, if we're talking about bodybuilding, or hypertrophy type movements or stuff where we're trying to really isolate muscle groups, a beginner also needs to have the time to kind of really learn to get as much out of that exercise as possible. They need the opportunity to learn how to contract their muscle in that plane or through that range of motion or under that type of load, more so than an advanced lifter who's already kind of developed that ability. So beginners need to use the same exercises for a longer period of time, more so than intermediates or advanced lifters do. I can't give a specific time frame. However, some generalizations of I've had beginner lifters do kind of the same lifts 3 times a week from anywhere from 4 all the way to 12 weeks, and then make progress on those lifts every single time. Whereas in certain situations, advanced lifters, I've changed those exercises up weekly. So there's kind of 2 generalizations for you. But when talking about experience level, beginners need to keep the same exercises for a longer period of time than more so than intermediate or advanced lifters. Second thing to take into consideration is, what is the training goal? For example, if an intermediate or advanced lifter was further out from a competition, we may use that period of time to develop some certain fitness characteristics that are going to be vital for their success come competition time. So we may use it to develop some hypertrophy, build some muscle up. We may use it as an opportunity to improve any bilateral weaknesses. We may use it as an opportunity to fix any mobility or flexibility issues or anything like that. Or as the competition gets closer, we may use that period of time to hammer in some more techniques specific to the actual lifts that they're going to do. So what we may do is towards the beginning, where we're trying to build up some of these different fitness capacities, there may be more variation in their lifting, and as they get closer and closer towards the meet, it may kind of get more specific towards the actual squat, bench, and deadlift. One of the peaking programs that I've used for my lifters to get ready for meets is basically they squat 3 times a week, they deadlift twice, and they bench 4 times a week for the last 4 to 6 weeks going into the meet. So that by the time they get to meet day, they've done multiple sets and reps of the specific lifts that they're going to do on meet day. Something else to consider is, if our training goal is more performance-based, where something like powerlifting or Olympic lifting, where specific movement patterns have to be ingrained and technique has to be perfect to fully maximize their performance in that particular lift, we're probably going to use more specific lifts for them. However, in something like hypertrophy or fat loss or even mobility type stuff, we can vary it a little bit more because the motor patterns don't have to be quite as ingrained for those activities as they do for more performance-based lifts. So more performance-based stuff, for example, strongman, strongman, powerlifting, Olympic lifting. We're going to kind of keep the same lifts in for a longer period of time. Something like bodybuilding, fat loss, general conditioning, we can vary the lifts a little bit more. All right, third thing to take into consideration is the training period. So like I kind of hit on this earlier, but as we get closer towards competition time, that may reflect on how often we're going to change exercises. So a football player, as he gets closer towards football season, is going to do a lot more football-specific drills. A powerlifter, as he gets ready for a meet, is going to do more competition-style lifts. An Olympic lifter, as they get ready for a competition, is going to do more competition lifts. So during the training period, the training period or where they are, relative to competition time is going to also reflect on how often they're going to change their exercises. A few more things to take into consideration are results, carryover, mental engagement. So you may find that just some exercises aren't getting the results that we wanted. They're not having a carryover. This could be in regards to muscle building. It could be in regards to fat loss. It could be in regards to building strength. There just may be some times where certain exercises just ain't doing the trick. At those periods, I yank those out. If they're not getting me what I wanted to get out of them, I see no reason to keep them into the program just because I programmed them in there. So I'll take those out. Something else to consider is mental engagement. Doing the same things over and over and over again can be very rewarding, or it can be incredibly boring. So when dealing with athletes of different sorts, some people need a little bit more variety in their training just to kind of keep them more mentally engaged in the process, to get them going to the gym and feeling excited about it. Especially for fat loss clients or people just beginning, a lot of times they get really bored of doing the same stuff over and over again, and they need something to kind of keep them active. For example, a lot of times we'll use different HIIT type exercises at the end of a workout, just kind of do a little finisher and burn a little more calories. Well, certain people like to do the same thing all the time, and certain people hate doing the same thing all the time. So we may use a certain variety for some of those people and less of a variety for others, based on kind of what their mental engagement is to that particular exercise. If a client says, I hate that exercise, I don't want to do it, and I can get the same benefits from another exercise, I see no reason to keep that exercise in just because I programmed it in there. So those are three other things to consider on how often you should change exercises. So there you have a little quick guide to how often you should change your exercises. Take into consideration the experience level, their training goal, the training period, what kind of results carryover they're getting, and also mental engagement. Stay tuned for more MBS Whiteboard Talks.